Hello again, I'm Tim. This is Egg Chasers. Thank you very much for watching. Hit that little subscribe button if you haven't already, because this is where the rugby is as we build up to the Six Nations 2023 with, I'm delighted to say, the Rugby Analyst, YouTube OG, and also someone I used to play rugby with, and he's a good bloke. He's called Rich. Rich, thank you very much for having me.
Thank you very much. I don't know about some of that, but you're definitely the podcast OG as well, Tim. So absolute pleasure to be on your channel.
I will just say this is the second part of the chat we're having as we build up to the Six Nations. The first part is on Rich's channel, so I'm sure you're already subscribed to Rugby Analyst, but if by some weird freak occurrence you're not, go and get subscribed there now and watch the other half of this chat, and we'll pick up, maybe not where we left off. I'll tell you what, I'll just jump on a little tangent, Rich.
Where did we leave off? I don't know, to be honest. We'll just carry on.
Exactly. I can't remember, mate. But what I do know to be true is that today, as we record this, Netflix confirmed they are doing a fly-on-the-wall documentary program like Drive to Survive for F1 for rugby and for the Six Nations. Huge.
Yeah, that's going to be really cool. I mean, in the past we were waiting for those Lions DVDs, there weren't we? This is going to be the modern day equivalent. Yeah, it's going to be great.
I potentially game changing, because I'm one of the many people that. And again, my wife was exactly the same. Started watching F1 because we watched Drive to Survive. So we've been looking at ways to try and grow the game of rugby. We know it's a great sport and it's great to watch. And there's a lot of people that sort of think, oh yeah, there's a World Cup I'll watch, or Six Nations I might watch the odd game. But how can you convert them into fanatics? This is one way. So I'm so excited. Bearing in mind, we know, Rich, you go to Twickenham and around various grounds and chat to players. You know how amenable and how charismatic and giving players are. I cannot wait for the curtain to be peeled back and the stars of our game to be front and center. It's brilliant.
Yeah, no, it's going to be great. Can't wait for
that. We should probably throw our focus around the Six Nations. It was very England heavy, our chat, which I think is understandable given
two Englishmen. You've got to let us off a little bit.
Yeah. So France, didn't even mention them.
I know.
Is the World Cup theirs to lose? And are they the clear favourites for this tournament and the one later in the year?
Oh, easy answer, I think. Easy, yes. Obviously not disrespecting all those great teams out there, but I mean, if they were going to have the best chance to win, this is it. I mean, I remember when they started off their team, they literally cleared out the whole, Gautier cleared out most of the players, didn't he? A lot of the old players, started again from scratch. He's built this team. They're in their prime, the likes of Intermac and Dupont, they're completely in their prime, and it's at home. What more could you want? So, I don't know if it's theirs to lose, I guess, but it's the best chance almost they'll ever have. So I'll go with yes.
The only thing they don't have is people that have the experience of winning a World Cup, which South Africa will do. I was just thinking probably not New Zealand now. Would anyone in that New Zealand team? Yeah, New Zealand. Yeah, they've got a few in their team as
Metallic.
Well. Yeah. Bowden Barrett.
Oh yeah, there we go. So they have then. You've answered your own question.
Yeah. They definitely do. But that's the one thing France don't have, and the pressure does strange things to people. But Six Nations, they are the benchmark, and I can't. I mean, France Ireland.
Yeah, round 2,
else, isn't it?
France Ireland round 2. What do you reckon, Tim? Is that going to be the decider? Odds on?
Yeah.
Odds on, isn't it?
Although I think. Because is it in
Ireland?
It's in
Ireland. Yeah, in Ireland.
Yeah, you see, I don't think. Oh, I'm just getting brought a cup of tea. Hold on. Thanks very much.
Welcome.
No one comes out to the garage for me.
Sorry,
it's too cold out here. No one comes out here.
No, I think Rich. I don't think anyone will get a Grand Slam this year. So I think no one's going to win all 5 games.
That's a fairly safe bet, because it's so hard to do anyway. But the competition's so high, it would be unbelievable if, say, France won a Grand Slam. But I think what's good for France is they managed to get over the line last year, which kind of was the win they really needed. So even if they don't win this year, as long as they have a good Six Nations, I think they're in a decent position.
Yeah, I totally agree. But it's just in total contrast to Wales and to England, particularly. What I find so intimidating when I think about taking on France or Ireland is they know exactly, if everyone's fit, they know exactly who they're picking, who their first choice is. They know the second cab off the rank in most positions, with the caveat Ireland. I've got all their eggs in the Johnny Sexton basket, haven't they?
In the 37-year-old Johnny Sexton basket, yeah.
And he's not going to start the Six Nations, is he? Is that right? Or is he going to be back fit?
I think it's looking better for him. Last time I read something, but I don't know. But they need to get that number 2 nailed down. So maybe it wouldn't be the worst thing if they played almost a whole Six Nations with their number 2, whoever they decide that to be.
That's not a bad shout, you know. It's not a bad shout. The player I think that that is taking more and more and becoming a bigger and bigger influence. And if you wanted to predict who might be Six Nations Player of the tournament, Gary Ringrose might be the one I'd shout. He's better and better than I've ever seen him this season. And
the word class act.
I think he could be.
Yeah.
Oh. So
he's like that kind of Conrad Smith figure, isn't he? That kind of brilliant defensive and attacking play who never really makes any mistakes. I mean, with the Sexton thing, I'd probably go as far to say is Gibson Park is probably even more important.
Wow.
Yeah, I do, because Sexton's fantastic and he makes great decisions, but he is 37 and he might well not make it through every single game in a World Cup. Gibson Park is a bit younger and he brings that tempo to the attack, and Ireland's attack is built on tempo. And at the moment, he's the only scrum half I've seen that gives them that tempo and the kicking game and the assuredness. When he started off, I wasn't convinced by him, but he's got so good so quickly. I think he's the guy they really don't want to lose. Obviously Sexton as well, but I'll chuck that one in there.
Yeah, and you mentioned on the video on your channel just how much speed of ball is, well, it's important to every team, but that's what's been behind Ireland's success. And yeah, I think you got a point there, and you see it with a lot of scrum halves. Dupont, just his work rate's immense for all the incredible things he does as well. His work rate is absolutely unbelievable. But with the England position in the scrum half, that's the one thing that I look to is who have we got that just has that tempo. And Alex Mitchell does that brilliantly well, but when you see him play for Northampton, he kind of does that really well for 50 minutes, 55 minutes, and then he has to come off because it's such a hard thing to do for an extended period of time. So I think that's a really, really good shout that on Gibson Park.
Yeah, I mean, that's where, like I say, Ireland and France, they're settled, and say with England, they just don't know what their best team is yet. So it's always going to be tricky. Scotland are in not a bad position in that. We talked about Scotland a bit in the previous video, saying maybe internally in their camps not the best, but at least they know pretty much what their best team is, which is blooming useful, I tell you.
Yeah, and they've got in terms of form players, Tuipulotu is one of the best out there right now. So again, if you were kind of picking a form centre pairing, you might well put Tuipulotu and Ringrose as the two.
You're picking a Lions team already, are you?
Six Nations, which he said he was. Yeah, well, there you go. It's only 3 years out. Or how? When's the next one?
No.
25.
Yeah.
25.
We might have to edit this bit, Tim.
No, that's fine. I can't remember. My brain is fried.
2000.
Yeah, it's 25. It was 21, wasn't it? The last one. 17 was the one before that. 13 was the one before. Yeah,
that's it.
25.
Right.
Anyway,
we'll edit that to make us look like we know what we're talking
and
about.
Ringrose for the Lions.
Okay.
Yeah, of course. So I think Scotland have got some, and also Stuart Hogg looks a little bit more Stuart Hoggy the last time we saw him.
Yeah, I think
in a Scotland shirt as well.
I think he's a little bit injured at the moment.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, the last time we saw him, he looked a bit more hoggy. So anyway, some of their key players are in a bit of form.
I'll ask you a question, Tim, actually. Let's talk about Italy for a bit. Italy in the autumn, I thought looked the best I've ever seen them team-wise. They've always had good spells, but for a whole game, their systems look really, really slick, and they've got some cutting edge now. But, and tell me if you disagree here, I don't think they're going to win a game this year, even though they're the best they've ever been. That's my call. What do you reckon?
Who do they have at home?
They have Ireland at home, they have France at home, and Wales at home, which I imagine they'll try and target beating Wales a second time.
Yeah, well, I think I probably agree with you on both counts. They were the most improved team from what you saw in the autumn, and what I liked is they came in playing down their chances, but I think they were secretly very confident in what they had. And yeah, some young guys that are bedded in, some really exciting players, and as you exactly said, they've got an identity and a direction, and they're all on the same page.
Yeah, I mean, the reason why I don't think they're going to win is it's so tough to win a game anyway, but I don't think they've got Garbisi, who's injured, and I think Ioane, who is phenomenal for them on the wing, they can't select him because he's in Australia or something. And even though I think they've got Pelledri coming back in, who's was a good player when he's at his best, I still think that's a net loss. Without Garbisi and Ioane.
Yeah, I don't think Pelledri's. It's going to be a long time before he's back the player he was, if he gets there at all. Because
at his prime, he was an absolute rocket, wasn't he? He was just a phenomenal before his injury.
Yeah, but I mean, there's very few people. I think George Skibbington said this a few weeks back, that it's testament to the kind of belligerence of Jake Pelledri that he's playing at all, because most players would have retired with the injury that he had. He nearly lost his leg. And for him to be just even turning out for Gloucester, albeit in their, not frontline first choice yet for Gloucester, is phenomenal. So I really hope he can keep improving, because when you look to the World Cup, he's a real difference maker for Italy. He's not going to be a difference maker in this Six Nations.
Yeah, absolutely.
But it's good to see him playing.
Yeah. Is there any other teams we haven't talked about?
Well, how do you expect Wales to set themselves up? If we talk about Wales, is it going to be the classic Gatland ball, or is that just a bit of a trope, and it will be much more than that, given the players that Wales have? How do you think they're going to actually play?
I think they're going to beef up. I've done a video on this before. I think Gatland could well go for just a big beef up and get some proper big boys in there in the pack. Because, in the autumn, the way that New Zealand absolutely bullied them up front was embarrassing, frankly. And I think he will never want that to happen again. So I think we could see some big boys returning in the pack potentially. What do you think he's going to do with Alan Wynne-Jones?
I think he's going to have him in the squad. Absolutely.
I think Rowlands is out injured, isn't he?
Yeah. It's that is. Yeah, I think he will still lean on him, and he has something to offer when everyone's fit. He probably doesn't warrant the starting spot, but he definitely warrants a spot in the squad. But I think what Gatland's mantra was always, when he was always be the best at the things that require no skill. So his team was the fittest. They all got on the weights big time. He made sure the things that were easy to fix were all fixed. Has he had time to really get that sorted before this? Maybe not, but by the World Cup, I expect that to be the case. He'll have total reign over those players. He'll have all the access he wants with them, and all of the absolute basics, the things that you don't need any flair and stardust for. Warren Gatland's going to get them absolutely nailed on. And to that point, I think you might be right in his approach. Just get some giant men.
I mean, when Gatland was with Wales for the first time, he was almost a forerunner with that, with the amount of conditioning they did, the fitness they had. He took it to a whole new level. And I think the teams have now caught up to that. So even though I think they're going to be fantastically fit, I'm not sure that's the trump card they can quite play again. I think he might have to think outside the box a bit. That's just we'll see. We don't know because we haven't seen the team play, but that's my take. I think it's a tough task. I actually do think it's a really tough task for him.
I agree with you. I would have loved, as I mentioned on the video on your channel, I would have loved to have seen him part of the England setup. I think that he would have been like a kid in a sweet shop there, but he has got a tough job. But in a way, he can't lose, because if Wales don't do very well, it's like, well, they weren't doing well before, and if he comes and improves them again, he's waved his magic wand and enhanced his reputation even more. I think all it does signal that Warren Gatland's at Wales is that he knows he was never going to get the New Zealand job, which I do feel sorry for him, because I feel he's one of the best coaches ever, and it'll be a shame for him if he never gets a crack at New Zealand.
Yeah, I think that's well off the cards now, isn't it? He didn't. I think it got all funny, didn't it, during the Lions tour, and then it didn't go well for him at the Chiefs. So I think he knows it's a goner, that one.
Yeah. In terms of France, just one question I want to ask is, like, who would you select at 10? Because it's not only England that have had big debates in their rugby public about who should wear the 10 jersey.
I'll stick with Intermac.
Jalabert or Intermac.
Yeah, I think I'd stick with Intermac. I just think he's got a higher ceiling, as in just like physically what he can actually do. And when France are at their best, they do just such exciting stuff. But either would be fine. Either would be absolutely fine. It's a great position to be in, isn't it? But yeah, I'm sticking with the Intermac train at the moment.
I'm like you. I'd be happy with either. Intermac is devilishly handsome. He's the best looking of the pair, but I would probably go for Jalabert on pure rugby at the minute. But the same question with England. Come on, I can't believe we've waited this long before we've spoken about Farrell Smith.
Yeah. Oh, Farrell Smith.
Well, no, you
want to play Smith at 12, do you?
Oh yeah, that's what I meant. No, Farrell Smith 10. Well, both in the team. Which one? If you only had to pick one,
I completely pass on that. It depends how Borthwick wants to play. Probably Farrell, I'd say at the moment. Although, again, that tackle issue comes back to my mind. But put that to one side. I think Farrell probably certainly to start with. It kind of makes logical sense, doesn't it? Farrell starting, Smith coming on, just seems right. Although I do wonder if George Ford's going to come back into the equation again.
I've no doubt that is the case, and I think that's the one everyone's watching when you look further out towards the World Cup. And when's Ford back? How good can he be close to where he was? Because I
think he'll be really good. Actually, I think all the words are that he's looking really sharp and in good shape. I just hope they don't go back to the 10-12, the Farrell at 12. I just think we've moved past that now. Personally, I don't think it's a goer for me. What about you?
I tend to agree. If we had other great options at 12, but I actually do think so. I'll be amazed if Steve Borthwick doesn't start Owen Farrell at 10. I would start Owen Farrell at 10. But I do think Owen Farrell is quite possibly the best 10 in the world. Some people won't agree with that and will take issue with that statement. But that's as I see it. But I also
they haven't played him at 10, so we don't know yet because they've only played him at 12.
No. I agree. So I think Owen Farrell could well be the best 10 in the world, and I do think he is the best 12 in England. This is the issue. Is unlike other nations, even in the Six Nations, even Scotland, certainly Ireland, to some degree. Well, probably Wales are in a similar position where they're looking at their 12 position as well and wondering exactly what to do. I just like who is that person then? I like Dan Kelly. He's young and unproven at international level. Ollie Lawrence is really a 13 who's playing 12 and playing well for Bath, but are either of them the answer? And if not, who else?
I mean, that is the problem. it's a shame when you're saying Farrell's a best 12 because there's no one else. It's a problem, isn't it? If Anyanwu of Harlequins had been starting every game at 12, that would maybe say something, but then you're not going to get past Esterhazen. There's just not enough English 12s playing 12 in England to answer that. I think maybe Litchfield of Northampton in a few years could be someone really good. But and like you say, I think Lawrence is a 13 personally. I think it'd be a mistake playing him at 12. So I think it is Kelly starting with Farrell as your backup potentially.
Okay, I like Dan Kelly a lot, and before he got injured, he looked class. So he's got a big game against Leicester away in Claremont. If he shows up well in that game in the Champions Cup, that's a big statement. So yeah, but I think it just highlights the reason why Farrell has been picked at 12 for England and for the Lions as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, completely agree. I mean, he brings a lot of skills to the, a lot of attributes to the game at 12. But the question is, would he play 12 for other top nations? Would he play 12 for New Zealand or South Africa or France or Ireland? And if the answer is no, then you probably need to look elsewhere. But I know what you're saying.
Yeah, totally agree. So let's talk about players, just individuals that you think their stock is going to rise. If you were like a stock trader investing in rugby players, who would you be loading up your rugby analyst assets on?
Oh, okay. All the
Bitcoin you've got stashed away.
These weren't questions that we didn't know the questions that were coming, so this is catching me on the hop. I like this. Maybe Doris of Ireland. I think he's really come on, bulked up a bit. I'm a little bit worried that if he bulks up too much, he loses some of the pace that he had. But it's a balance to be played. Him definitely. Maybe Christ Windsor of Wales. I want to see him in the team and see what sort of ceiling he has. I've got this sneaky feeling that Gatland might even use him as a 7, like Exeter do. So I'll probably go for those two. What about you, Tim?
Christians was one of the ones I think he will be starting for Wales, and he's a frightening.
He's a freak, isn't he? He's a freak of an athlete, and that goes a long way.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm gonna just dovetailing back to something we talked about earlier in the conversation. I'm gonna put all my chips on, bearing in mind how many good players there are in England's back three. I'm going to load up on Ollie Hassel-Collins because I think he will be in the squad. I think he will start, and I think he's going to be.
You said that in the first video, so he's going to have to start now, Tim, isn't he?
Yeah, I'll look a fool if he doesn't. I'll look a fool.
That's all right.
And then let's just finish off with a predictions for the Six Nations. That can be who you think is going to come out on top, or it can be just some outlandish statements that you've already said. You don't think Italy are going to win a game?
No, I don't think Italy are going to win a game, even if they play well. I think losing Garbisi Ioane is really hard. Plus, I think it's a tough ask anyway. Yeah, I think it's whoever wins Ireland, France is the team. It's a boring answer, but I think that's the team that's going to win. And I think my dark horse is England because they're completely unknown. They've got that new coach bounce. And I think if they win that first game against Scotland, they then play Italy at home, and they've never lost to Italy at home, touch wood. And then they play the two potentially best teams last in Ireland and France. So those are my predictions. But as we all know, predictions make a fool of everyone.
100%. And obviously you're going to hopefully be at Twickenham for at least one of the games.
I think they'll let me in. They'll let me in for the Italy game.
Well, I hope to see you at Twickenham for that one then. Do you watch the game in your garage there in the Rugby Analyst?
No, it's too cold. I'll watch it in comfort, to be honest.
And also, I want to ask, because I bet some people have looked and thought this before. What are the ties?
What are the ties?
Which clubs are the ties?
Okay, well that's simply a competition. You just got to say name the ties. I'm not going to say.
All right, I'll go.
Go on.
London Scottish. Is that London Scottish? The blue and red one?
Nope. Keep going.
No. There's a Bath Uni one.
Uh-huh.
Is that the yellow and black?
Yeah,
the
yeah.
little yellow badge with the. Oh, yeah. I recognise the Bath Uni one. That is. Is that Bristol University as well?
Not quite, but you're getting close. I'll let you work on this one. You can text me the answer. We'll keep that one as a cliffhanger.
Comments in the comments. Help me out. What's the what are the ties in the background? Yeah. I love Rugby stash and rugby memorabilia.
There's a shirt sneaking in there as well. If you can name that one, that's a proper bonus.
Shirt sneaking in.
Yeah, stripy one below
in the background.
In the background.
Oh,
next to the ties.
Interesting. Right.
I'll let you work on that.
There we go. Help me out in the comments. Rich, mate, I absolutely love your work, and I'm looking forward to seeing all your videos during the Six Nations.
Yeah, well, I enjoy making them. I'm sure you do too, and it's good that you're on YouTube as well now, coming out of the podcast world into the bright light of YouTube.
Yeah, and you have to support these independent YouTubers who love their rugby as much as you do. So go and subscribe to Rich's Rugby Analyst channel, subscribe to Egg Chasers, and keep an eye out for the videos that are coming thick and fast during the Six Nations. Leave your comments and your thoughts. And Rich, top man.
Thank you very much, Tim.